Yo, 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 hitteth them high, hitteth them low. It is the No Bull Just Ball podcast with your boy Nick Hughes, Brandon Brito, uh, Julian Delgado joining us again, the only angel not suspended so far this week.
That we know of.
I was going to say, at least not yet. So we'll get into that later on for sure. Very special episode, though. Also, speaking of brawls, actually, I just happened to see something a few seconds ago. Blue Jays Red Sox benches cleared today. Another one with managers in the mix. Charlie Montoya getting in there.
Was it over?
Yeah.
Another a couple hit batters in the game. Alejandro
Pavetta hit Kirk.
Yeah.
And the manager went out, and then Vladdy was.
Vladdy was in it.
And then it didn't get physical, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it.
Yeah.
But it was a big one. I was like, oh, so this is the state of the MLB.
Yeah.
They gotta do something about
We'll get into it a bit more later, but fun to see. I will apologize in advance for the fireworks. Dudes out on the block are testing it early today. So that's going on. So that is a different kind of firework. So anyway, we're gonna do something fun. I feel like we play a lot of games on this show. I like that about us.
Yeah.
We're a fun podcast. It's a shame nobody watches this.
Mom does.
Shout out to the 10 of you out there.
Say,
the real ones.
Mom, if you're listening to this, I appreciate you. Anyway, moving on. So Brandon, go ahead. Take it away. This was a Brandon creation.
All right,
go crazy with it.
Yep, another Brandon creation. Something you may have heard similar things growing up as kids. We insert 3 other words that I'm going to keep this episode PG-13, so we won't say what the other words are. But once I explain them, I think everybody will know what game we're playing. We're going to play the game. I'm calling it Keep, Trade, Cut. Similar to a younger game that we played as teenagers, like I said. Basically, we're going to make this baseball edition. As you see, each category that we mentioned, we did it team by team with the bonus round at the end that will remain mysterious till the end. But basically, you're going to get 3 players from one team. There's going to be a central theme for the team. And then of those 3, you're going to decide which player you want to keep based on whatever your reasoning is, how they're doing currently, how they historically have been, or just compared to the other players, which category you believe them in. Trade, and then we're going to say who we think they should be traded to and for what our reason is. Or cut, and that basically means out of the 3 options, they will be leaving the team. Pretty simple, pretty fun. Would love to hear the fans' comments on our answers. So you know where it is. Go below.
Nice little plug. All right, go ahead, Brandon. Do you want to announce the categories? Or do you want me to?
You could announce them. I know you got them in front of you.
All right, cool. So we're gonna start. I feel like how we start most podcasts is talking about a New York team in some capacity. So we're gonna go Yankees, but we're not gonna go with the what are we at? 53 wins on the season, Yankees? No. We're gonna go with the Yankees to come. So the top 3 Yankees prospects. So we have Oswald Peraza, or in order, I should say, it's Anthony Volpe, Oswald Peraza, Jason Dominguez. Anyone feeling particularly strong about this, or how do we do? Brandon, I'll let you dictate here. Are we going to go keep first, and are we going to go in order of the thing, or are we going to go by player? Each person going to say their own thing?
I think we could go. We can do each person say their own thing, and then we can have like a 2-minute discussion at the end.
Right, I like it. All right. So, anybody feeling strong here?
I feel like the Yankee fan should go first.
I was just about to say you should be going.
All right, cool. So this is actually going to go very against what I think most Yankees would do here, or most Yankee fans, I should say. I am flat out cutting Jason Dominguez. For me, I feel like it's too much of an anomaly. I feel like the mix of power, speed, it's attractive to a degree. He's 5'10", built like a freaking NFL linebacker, though. Already has had some injury troubles in the past. His stock has fallen dramatically since he was the top international free agent. I think he's obviously, as long as he's in the Yankee system, you root for him. But of these three names, he is for me a name that has lost some traction, has not fared the best over. So I have his 2021 season stats in rookie and low A, 252, 353, 379 slash line, over 57 games, 5 home runs, 9 RBIs. That is not what you want out of the guy that you thought you were getting. I'm going to be honest. So for me, Jason Dominguez is on my cut list. So that leaves the 2 Yankee shortstops. And this is where it's really going to get divisive. I have us keeping Oswald Peraza, the more physically impressive specimen, and for a very specific reason. I think the Yankees need a true shortstop. There is a reason the Gleyber Torres experiment did not work. It is because he is not a true shortstop. At one point, technically, he was. We moved him off the position. He could not move back. But even when he was at the position, he did not grade out well as a shortstop. Anthony Volpe, who is on my trade list, and I'll get to in a second, is of that same ilk. He's a solid defender, good but not great. Oswald Peraza, on the other hand, is a legitimate long-term shortstop option, grades out with impeccable remarks. Last year, in all of the Yankees' major league, minor league system, had the most stolen bases, fewest errors to batted balls in play. His slash line from last year across 3 levels of advancement, so high A, double A, triple A. I have a 297, 356, 477, 18 home runs, 38 stolen bases over 115 games. Every level he hits. This year has been no different. Now he's showing you even more what he can do with the glove. It's gotten to a point where even if Volpe stays in the system, it's almost a foregone conclusion that Volpe has to move off of shortstop to a second or third. So for me, Oswald stays. Volpe is getting traded, and if I'm trading Volpe, I have a couple trade candidates. So the other thing with my trade candidates, I tried to not repeat at any point. At least not the players getting traded kind of deal. So I have Volpe either going to the Oakland A's with Kyle Higashioka for catching help in Sean Murphy and center field, a legitimate center fielder, so Aaron Judge will not get hurt, Ramon Laureano. Then I have him going to the Texas Rangers alongside Miguel Andujar for Adolis Garcia and Dennis Santana, the young relief pitcher. So those are my 2 trade destinations for Anthony Volpe there, right? But I really like the idea of keeping Peraza. I think he's the long-term fit at shortstop. If he can give you, 270 with 20 home run pop, steal another 20 to 30 bags, but play phenomenal defense, I think, the expectations of Jeter at that position is unreal. He's almost become a myth at this point that the Yankees fans are chasing. But if you can get a guy who can give you something solid with the bat while simultaneously playing gold glove defense, stealing a few bags for you, and being a real anchor for that team on a different element, I think you have to take that.
Okay. Pretty
Yeah.
good. Who you got?
You want to go next, Brandon?
All right, I can go. So I'm a little similar, a little different. Similar in the cut aspect. I think I'll be cutting Jason Dominguez. I think he, just of the 3 options, the reason I'm cutting him mainly is because he's very junior in the system. He hasn't proven himself that much, and he had a little more leeway to be cut. That's not a knock on his talent. I think he's going to be great. He's been around for 2 seasons. You mentioned his stat line earlier. He's a solid outfielder in a position, and that's a position that people don't really focus on too much, I guess, because they're a dime a dozen. But he seems like he got some good pop. So I think he'll land back on his feet somewhere. But this is where we differ because I'm actually keeping Volpe. My reasoning for keeping Volpe is that IKF has proven to be formidable, not amazing, at shortstop for them. They can keep him for another year or two plus his contract. Let Volpe, progress a little more and get a little better on his defensive skills. And then because of his position flexibility, I just feel like at the end of the day, you want someone like that. I agree with your point of them needing a true shortstop, but he just needs some time to develop, in my opinion. And I think once having that flexibility just in case, I truly believe in the Buck Showalter mindset where having players that can play multiple positions is very essential for your team. And Volpe kind of fits that category. So by default, I will actually be willing to part ways with Oswaldo Peraza. And I think that he's a true shortstop. I think there were a lot of teams in the market for the shortstop. And so that's why I decided to part ways because I feel like the Yankees could really get a good haul. And they can actually work on continuing to upgrade that farm system. So I actually have them trading with the Los Angeles Angels, who have a hole at shortstop. They have someone who could another stopgap they could probably keep there for another year or two, or if they get a little anxious, maybe call up Oswaldo next year. And they're just gonna the Yankees, like I said, the Yankees are gonna trade for a few prospects. I'm thinking 2, maybe 3, but the 2 specifically that I meant that come to mind that I think they can get is the Angels' number 8 prospect, Edgar Cuero, who is a catcher. Yankees need some catching depth. That's probably one of the few positions on their offensive team that they can really do better at consistently. And I think that with him being their number 8 prospect, he has an A. He's only 19, switch hitter, throws righty. There's a lot of good stuff there that you can work with and develop over time, especially if he's only 19. He has a couple years to get to have the Volpe effect essentially. And then just trade for like a right-handed pitcher. The one that sticks out to me, just because he's currently in the MLB, is Chase. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. It's like Silseth.
Silseth,
Yeah. I think he would be a good Angels fan. Yeah, I was gonna say he's a good candidate. I think he's just someone everybody can use pitching, and I think that would be a good 2 prospect-ish pick for Jason Dominguez.
Ooh, I like that. All right, Julian, where you at?
I'm more similar towards Brandon. I have trade Peraza. I think he's the most big league ready. So a lot of teams that are out of it this year, but then think within the next 2 years they could have something together. I'm kind of up in the air. I've been up in the air this whole time between Volpe and Dominguez because I'm really high up on Dominguez. I really like him. I think for me, it just depends on what happens with Judge at the end of the season.
Fair.
Because if Judge walks, it's going to be kind of hard to, not have Dominguez in your system.
Yeah.
But I know there's a glaring shortstop hole. So I'm probably going to end up saying keep Volpe and cut Dominguez. But it's literally just a toss up for me. The place I would look to trade Peraza, would probably be the Rangers because I don't know how well they're high up on their core. They're probably gonna need some third base help too if they need to move them around, stuff like that. And then you can get Martin Perez because after this Astro series, you guys need pitching help at least on the deep end of your rotation. So I just think that, and then maybe a multitude of other prospects could fill out that trade a little bit better.
Nice. Okay. I like this one. I like it.
Anyone not named Cole didn't do so well. And it's showing.
I will say I really appreciate, the one thing about these is they were intended to be difficult decisions.
Yeah.
Like some more so than others, I will say. Fans will sort of catch on to that as we go along here. Some more so than others for sure, but that's definitely the idea, is to try to make it a little tough. We're going to stay in the AL East now. We're going to move over to the Boston Red Sox, and we're going to talk about guys who are set to be free agents at the end of the year. So the names are Xander Bogaerts, Nathan Eovaldi, and Kike Hernandez. And for these three, we're going to switch it up a little bit. This time, I'm going to give you the name, and you say if he is on your keep, trade, or cut list. Okay? So we're going to start at the top of that with Xander Bogaerts. Julian, which way are you going with Xander?
I have trade. If he has to opt out this after this season, if you feel like he's going to walk, like the early reports were saying, you try to get what you can for him. He had if he decides to opt back in with the club that you trade him for, obviously he has many years after this opt-in where he's controllable after that. So you can get a decent haul for Xander Bogaerts.
Yeah.
And you're probably not going to win a playoff series this year, especially if you're lower wild card standings. Try to get some big league ready talent to just retool for next season. But I have Xander being traded.
Ooh, okay.
Nice.
Did you have a team?
I didn't have a team in mind. It's pretty much just get the best package possible.
Okay, because I actually also have Xander Bogaerts being traded.
Do your thing, sir.
Okay, so again, I think the big thing for me was you have another shortstop, arguably a better one, at least from the defensive and base running standpoint alone, under contract for the next 5 years. That in and of itself, Trevor Story sitting at second base feels like an absolute waste. For me, at least, it feels like the Red Sox were ready for Xander Bogaerts to part ways, and justifiably so. I mean, I think he's in a situation where he should be trying to get the most money possible from. So I think regardless of the situation, Red Sox can win another World Series this year. He's opting out and collecting his bag as he should. He's deserving of it. Yeah. I think there's only a handful of shortstops better than him. And shortstop is a position where I looked at it and I said, there's a lot of contenders right now in need of a Xander Bogaerts level shortstop. So that was the big thing for me. The one I settled on specifically, though, was the St. Louis Cardinals. Okay. So my swap, going back to Boston, is a second baseman who could play opposite Trevor Story and Tommy Edman. Then the number 1 overall prospect in the St. Louis Cardinals system in Jordan Walker. And the number 14 overall prospect in the Cardinal system, Lucan Baker, who's going to be a little bit more MLB-ready talent. He's a first baseman who can help the Red Sox probably this year or next. I think with Tommy Edman, he has a few years of team control still. For me, if you're the Cardinals, you bank on your ability to retain him. You already have a core that's more age appropriate, I think, for him in Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado, all three being within 3 years of his age. That's a team you can build around now. That's a 3-set, that's your 3, 4, 5 for the next 5 years minimum kind of deal. So even if Xander wants to opt out, you have that option. So that was my thing there for Xander. What do you have, Brandon, there?
Sorry, some technical difficulties. I actually am going to go against the grain here. I'm going to keep Bogaerts. Okay. I think there's something to be said towards keeping a guy that you kind of came up through the ranks. I don't think I weirdly in my mind see this becoming a Soriano or insert Soriano, or even actually insert A-Rod situation with A-Rod and Jeter, where A-Rod came over, shifted over to third base, except Story's coming over, shifting over to second base. So I see them keeping Bogaerts, keeping him happy. He's been obviously he's a leader in the clubhouse. He's turning it around. I don't know if that's because he wants to get traded or trying to show off his stuff, or just because he's like, you know what, I actually want to stay here. Either way, it's looking good the past month-ish. So I have him actually staying in them, both of them keeping that marriage going.
Okay. So we're going to move to Nathan Eovaldi then. And I'll lead here. This was my keep. And for me, the Boston Red Sox's biggest hole for the last, I don't know, when did John Lester get traded? For the last God knows how long has been pitching. 2016. The Red Sox have great bats. not great arms. Nathan Eovaldi has been their most consistently good starter, if not great at times, since the World Series run in 2018. I don't think the Boston Red Sox, especially with the health of Chris Sale, everything after the two of them is unproven still to various degrees, whether it be Pivetta, Whitlock, Tanner Houck. It does not matter. It's a whole lot of question marks for me after that. You can't afford to part ways with the one consistent arm you've had for years now. So that was my keep. I think, it's a very good class of pitchers coming up this offseason, but I think there are few that you can point to definitively and say they're leaps and bounds above what Nathan Eovaldi is. So I think the Red Sox have to, sort of roll out the money bags for him on this one. Brandon, where you at here?
So he's actually my trade candidate. I think that similar to my last argument, there are a lot of teams in need for starting pitcher depth.
Yeah.
And I think as the season's going on, with the amount of injuries that are going, and with just the way that people are positioning themselves for an even wider open playoff race this year with the extended playoffs, I think that he is their best trade chip, and they can get a haul for them. And because I think they can get a haul for him, I have them trading with a team that won't affect them in terms of making it to the World Series, a team that has an amazing farm system and so much depth they could take from. I have them actually trading with the Dodgers. So they'll trade him to the Dodgers. Dodgers are really hurting at starting pitching. We have Andrew Heaney, who had a great start to the season, back on the IL with his shoulder. I don't know what's going to happen to him. We have Dustin May recovering from Tommy John. That's either hit or miss. There's a third pitcher who's like a big profile pitcher. Oh, no, not huge.
Isn't it Tony Gonsolin is down too?
No, it's not Gonsolin. I forget who their third starting pitcher is, but he was like top of the rotation kind of guy who's out. I'm really blanking on his name right now because I'm on the spot. But I have them, the Dodgers have unlimited amount of prospects and they don't mind spending money. And I feel like whenever people move to California to play for a team, they then want to stay there. So I think the Dodgers are willing to even open up the books, and he may even be like the next Kershaw replacement, because Kershaw seems to be on his way out due to him being a little older. So I think that is where he'll go. Prospects galore, like I said, I see them maybe getting a starting pitcher. Bobby Miller, I think, is the name that comes to mind. Okay. Getting Miguel Vargas, a utility guy that can play third, second, and first, to kind of give them that help if Bogarts does walk. Then you can move Story over to short and then pop in Vargas at second base. But yeah, that's where I'm going.
I like it. Was it Walker Buehler?
Yeah, Buehler. There you go. See, I told you.
I was trying to think to myself, who's at the top of that rotation? I was like, I don't watch enough Dodgers baseball.
So many
West Coast is
players.
Living on the East, man, the West Coast is a tough watch. You have to legitimately hang tight till 10 p.m. to just start the game. That's really unfortunate.
Yeah,
it was unfortunate until I moved here. Then everything.
Yeah, I was gonna say now you get to see everything. It's like middle of the day when we're in the ninth inning.
Oh, anyway, you're finishing your work day and like now you're like, oh, let me just watch some 7 p.m. Eastern time baseball.
Yeah, pretty much. Great.
So our third team is also in the AL East. It's the Orioles.
Wait.
And,
Julian.
go ahead.
Wait. Mine really wasn't much special. I'm also keeping Eovaldi because for literally the exact same reasons Nick was listing.
Yeah. Okay.
Boston needs pitching. Eovaldi's actually having a really good season, on pace to be better than his All-Star season last year. He's pretty much the only thing they got until Sale gets back. So they need to keep floating. Yeah,
it's really weird. Julian nodded, and I just forgot that he still had to answer. It's really unfortunate Kike is getting cut here because I love Kike Hernandez so much.
He's not having a good season, though.
He isn't, but he's 100. He's like, I'm like 95% confident that Kike Hernandez is going to be a Yankee next year. So I'm really riding this very high. Seriously, he's like a super utility. He feels like the kind of guy the Yankees have just made a habit of bringing in now. And also he's like a Puerto Rican, just like stud. So like, why, I'm not rooting for that. That's just
True.
like, at this point, like I'm absolutely buying the only available Kike Hernandez jersey. That's just a thing. So I was going to say the next team is the Baltimore Orioles, who's an interesting one because when you actually look at the Baltimore Orioles roster as presently constructed, you'd be a lot more excited about them if I told you they did not play in the AL East. And that's a really interesting thing when you start going up and down. Like if I told you,
aren't the Orioles like 2 or 3 games back of 500?
They're not a bad baseball team, and their record outside of the division has been phenomenal. The only team they beat up on in division is the Boston Red Sox. So it's kind of weird when you look at this team as presently constructed and you realize, man, this isn't a bad ball club. Like if they were sitting in the AL Central, maybe NL Central, they're maybe at that, within reach. But instead, we're talking about them as a team who, unfortunately, is going to be moving a couple of early arbitration candidates, guys who we definitely should be more excited about, except for the fact we played on the Orioles. And that's just the unfortunate thing. So similarly, we're going to start here with the biggest name on the list. We're going to start with Cedric Mullins. Brandon, I'm going to give you first bid here. What are you doing with Cedric Mullins?
I mean, it sucks because of the way the current situation is. My answer may have been flipped between 2 players. And it'll be obvious who my other player would be. But with Cedric Mullins specifically, I'm actually trading him. Because right now he still has a lot of, and before we get into it, before I get into his reasoning, pre-arbitration means that you have a lot of team control, still very young players. You essentially own the rights to them for a while in terms of their contract status. So I think with him still being such a standout player, not injured, I think that, and in the outfield, some teams actually need that. I have him trading them, unfortunately, to the team that doesn't know how to put defensive players where they belong in the Phillies.
Ooh,
that's a good one.
Wow,
it hurts me to say it because obviously they're a rival. But I do think that at the end of the day, the Phillies just didn't know what they were doing in the offseason. And with this move, they can very much easily not only fix their defensive problem, but then honestly even help out the Orioles and give them a couple of guys who, like you guys just previously mentioned, they're a couple games under 500. The AL East is literally one of the most competitive divisions, and I feel like if you put a couple good bats in there, you never know what's going to happen at the end of the day.
That's fair.
So that's what I have going with Mullins.
Ooh, okay. I also have the Orioles trading Mullins. My thing is again, it's a toss up here. Agreed with you with another player that we'll get to in a second. He's 28 years old at the end of the season. He's arbitration eligible at the end of the year. So yeah, as I was saying before, and to piggyback on you were saying, he's 3 years of team control remaining. So this is a big get for a team. You have him locked up, through age 31 at that point, at which point, I hate to phrase it this way, his maximum earning potential really hits the skids. My thing for him, I'm not sold on Mullins as a long-term center fielder, was the big thing for me. I think ultimately, his legs make up for what is a subpar arm and a decent glove. Is always my takeaway with Cedric Mullins. So for me, I looked at it and I said the best thing you're getting is, in regards to Cedric Mullins, is you're getting a bat. And you're getting a bat that's now playing worse in a recently renovated Camden Yards that takes away a lot of his offense. They push the wall back in left field. Surprisingly, for a left-handed bat, 35% of Cedric Mullins' home runs in Camden Yards last year were hit the opposite way. So he's power to all fields kind of guy. I loved him for Houston. The Houston Astros giving up the numbers 3 and 5 prospects, Pedro Leon at short, Colin Barber in the outfield. Both are still a ways away from big league ready. Gives the Orioles a chance to reset yet again. Really look down the line. And also the last year the Astros took a guy they're pretty high on becoming their eventual everyday center fielder, Tyler Whitaker. So I thought, Mullins being able to shift over, essentially play long term while also building the offense this year was the big play there for the Astros. Long term, takes Brantley's place at the end of the year and left. Whitaker comes up. Kyle Tucker stays in right. Alvarez can just DH for life at that point with how young that is. So I really thought that made sense for me. And I think once he gets out of a no longer hitter-friendly Camden Yards, I think the numbers will spike right back up. But he needs to get out of there, and they need to get him out of there before it looks worse than it is, was my big thing. Julian, what you got?
Looks like it's a clean sweep for a trade for Cedric Mullins.
Okay.
I have him also being traded just because I feel like more the Orioles want to build around Hayes than around Mullins. I don't know why. It just from the outside looking in, it just seems like they promote Hayes more than Mullins, even though they literally have the exact same stats in their first 3-4 years.
Yeah, I will say to that point, I'm going to read you a couple of stat lines real quick if I can, just to add on to what you're saying. So one stat line is 256, 308, 461. The other is 254, 308, 381. The first stat line was Austin Hayes last year. The second stat line is Cedric Mullins this year. The next stat line is 291, 360, 518. The other stat line is 283, 340, 482. That's Cedric Mullins this year. Austin Hayes. They essentially just swapped. Is essentially what happened there.
Even if you look at their career numbers, one stat line is 267, 320, 457. The other one is 263, 327, 435. It's literally the exact same stat line.
Yeah, they're the same ball player, just hitting from the opposite sides.
Pretty much. But I have them being traded to another NL East team, just not the Phillies. I have them going to the Mets.
Ooh.
Need another bat, I think, and especially now that they're super high up on Adley, you don't need to give them Alvarez to make this trade happen.
That's true. I like that.
So that's why I think the Mets go after it. They get aggressive, get another bat, can bump them back up, because now after these last two series, a lot of people are, downplaying the Mets a little bit. I feel like this is the time. Go make a move, splash, bump you guys. Make sure you remind the MLB who you guys are from the beginning of the season.
As the reigning Mets fan in this group, I know you're also a Mets fan, Julian, so I appreciate you saying this too. I wanted to say that was my second team, but I didn't want. I feel like I bring it a lot. So I was like, let's go to people I don't like talking about, and the Phillies came to mind.
I will say I have the Mets in on someone else. My second team here was Milwaukee, actually.
Oh,
I have Milwaukee, but later on.
Yeah.
Another.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we all have the same collection of teams, just in on different guys. All right. So from the sound of it, I think we're all keeping Austin Hayes.
Yes.
And to that point, just to pad a little bit there, much better defender all around than Cedric Mullins. Arm, can play all three positions long term. A year younger, same arbitration eligibility. So he'll be eligible for arbitration 2023, becomes a free agent 2026. Slightly slower. Again, he's a little bit different of a player at the bat in the sense of where Mullins is more of a spread field kind of guy. Hayes is very much a shoot the corners.
Yeah.
He shoots down the lines either way. Sounds similar, but very different. Is on pace, actually. I was just looking at the stats earlier today. He's on pace for, I think, to finish third in Major League Baseball this year in both doubles and triples, which would be only the second time that happened in baseball history behind Ricky Henderson. So interesting note there.
And, and one quick tidbit to add on to that, what stuck out to me, why I chose him was just, I mean, I know it's only a year, but he is a year younger. And that's kind of what I was like.
Of course.
That was also one of my big factors.
Yeah. And then the guy I guess we're all cutting as well there is John Means, which is really upsetting because a year ago, if you told me this, you made me do this a year ago. John Means is probably my keep.
No, not at all. I called it in the offseason. I said he's gonna have such a fucking recession. He's literally gonna have the opposite. And I'm so happy. Unfortunately, it's because of Tommy John's. But
yeah, I was gonna say don't lead with I'm happy there.
Yeah. Well, I just think at the end of the day, like, because he has Tommy John's, because really last year was his only breakout year, it's like you can't trust what's gonna be on the other end of it.
Yeah. I was gonna say, even when he comes back, I think the biggest thing for me here was there are better arms lined up already in the Orioles system. Like, there's a reason, even with my Brewers trade theoretically for Cedric Mullins, or even if you want to switch and go Hayes, I'm not having them bring back in a pitcher. There are good arms coming up in the Baltimore Orioles system. DL Hall already debuted this year. You have Dean Kremer, who's been on and off. You have Grayson Rodriguez is projected as one of baseball's best starters long term. So when John Means comes back midway to late next year, theoretically, he's projecting at best at middle of the rotation. In terms of the comparison to a guy we're saying is the definitive keep in Austin Hayes and another guy who can get you legitimate trade assets in Cedric Mullins, I think this has to be something of a no-brainer. I think we all agreed there. So the next one we're going to go to, we're actually going to plop down now to the Texas Rangers. And with the Texas Rangers, Julian, you're enjoying this a little too much. We're going underperforming stars who were acquired this offseason.
Yeah.
Now, the practicality of getting rid of some of these guys is a little extreme, two in particular. But we're going to start with, we're going to switch it up this year, or this time, I should say. This time, I'm going to say, give me your keep, and you're going to give me your keep and why. So, Julian, go ahead, lead this one off. Who is your keep?
My keep is Corey Seager. I think even though he's having a down season, he's still third on the team in WAR. I feel like he can bounce back a lot better than Marcus Semien has, and I've been on the record saying I believe Seager could, because his track record proves it, whereas Semien has had flash in the pan type seasons. That's mainly the real reason between the two. And I just think Garver is just too old to really bounce back, and he's hitting 208. So I think Seager's the real only option for me.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on Seager. I was tempted in two different, I was tempted to go either way here with another guy. Way to tip everything off, Julian. God, you know nothing about broadcast. Ugh. Ugh. But anyway, I was tempted to go either way here. I have Seager sticking around. I think he's younger than Semien. On top of it, I think, one that contract at this point, it's a weird one to say, considering I think a few other teams would have given him that contract. Now that the contract has been given, it's a tall task to move that son of a bitch. Like that thing is sticking around now for sure. It's a tall task there. I think Seager's maybe the more marketable of the three. The Rangers need something in that capacity. This is a tough one for me because it could have gone either way. Seager is just, quite frankly, for me, a little younger. Longer contract, and I guess it works out. This was a tough one for me on the keep. Brandon, what do you think?
I actually have them keeping Marcus Semien. It was a toss up between Seager, like everybody else here, between Seager and Semien. I'm going with Semien specifically because of his position flexibility. That's literally it. I think that it's not working with the both of them. So you keep the guy that you can move to then trade Seager to fit in, the other two positions that he won't play. But it just stands there for me.
Okay, I like that. So on that vein, I'll go trade, and my trade was Marcus Semien. The rationale was actually a piece of what you just said, the positional flexibility. Him now being able to play two positions, theoretically could also play third and a pinch. And on top of it, I feel like the name still carries a bit of weight. Literally a year ago, he was an MVP, third in the MVP vote?
Yeah.
Fourth?
Yeah.
Whatever it was. Absolute phenomenal. Julian, you can say flash in the pan, but when you flash in the pan enough times, you got to fire. It just is what it is. I think he's in need of a little bit of a reset. I agree with you in the sense that the flash in the pan has been caused by having great hitters around. So for that reason, I have him going to a team who in a very similar vein has grossly underperformed this year and needs to go all in. And we talked about them last week. I'm going the Chicago White Sox.
Okay.
So I have the Chicago White Sox looking at Marcus Semien as the definitive middle of the infield pairing with Tim Anderson that could potentially get Tim Anderson to stay, who's also a free agent next year, just throwing that out there. You bring in a guy who can play theoretically three positions, a veteran leader who isn't the veteran leader voices in the dugout that aren't working. You get someone different in there who can maybe right the ship a little bit, who has been around young players before, and can sort of right the ship there the same way he did in Toronto for the last, only a year really, in Oakland before that though. So I have going the other way. I have Gavin Sheets going to Texas, and their number 4 prospect, a name that Brandon's going to cringe with, Yoelqui Cespedes, younger brother of Yoenis. So
nice.
That was my 2 going back. The hard part about it is the contract is what it is, and then on top of it, the underperformance this year means they're not getting what they maybe would have liked. So anybody want to take their trade here?
You want to go, Julian?
Yeah, I also had Semien as a trade. Pretty much everything you've both have explained. And his contracts is not awful. Like, I'm looking at it year by year. It gets decreased every year. So right now he's 25, jumps up for 2 years to 26, and then eventually goes back down to 20. And by that time, luxury tax is going to be up, but he's going to be aging. So I think it'll be a lot easier to sell on a team, like you said, like the White Sox. I had him going to the Brewers. I feel like the Brewers could use a little bit easy. Colton Wong's not really doing it. So I feel like a new transition back to the colder north, where he was doing good in Chicago or in Toronto. And he had a few seasons in Oakland where it's a little bit colder up there. I feel like would be good for him. And maybe with the small market, he can, try to find the magic again.
Okay. I do respect. That's a good pick. I obviously, with not choosing Semien as my last choice, choosing Semien as my last choice. I'm choosing Seager as my sell. Similar conversations that we've all had. I think we've kind of hit the nail on the head with all of our reasoning there. So I have Seager going to a team that I think is experiencing seller's remorse. And I think at the end of the day, they're looking back, and last second, it was rumored that they were like, wait, no, here's your money. And then he chose to go somewhere else. And I think for these few months, they've been suffering from that concept. And I think at the end of the day, bringing a player of similar style who at the moment is slumping, but when he goes to this team, he'll actually pick it up again. I have the Colorado Rockies picking up Seager. And that being said, I have them trading away Chris Bryant.
Wow.
I think at the end of the day, Chris
Straight
Bryant,
up?
straight up. I mean, the contracts match at the end of the day, so it kind of worked. So I have them. What is it? Because isn't Chris Bryant a multi-year, or is he just 2 years?
No, it's like 7.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
So it works out. I think Colorado kind of tipped their hand, so to speak, in terms of, okay, we were willing to do it. Like I said, they've sucked. And if players like CJ Crone can turn around his offensive prowess and be amazing in Colorado, Seager, who has already proven the last year that he is really good and is just having a down year, can easily come back to the form he is. They have a shortstop back. And while they're giving away Chris Bryant, which is a piece that you would want to build around also, I think that's the only player that I would really work with at this point.
on a brief aside, I think CJ Crone has worked his way into being mentioned in every single episode of this podcast. And that's really impressive because I don't know that any other player has. So that's really cool.
That's
Just
not
in case.
either a Yankee or a Met or an Angel.
No, I was gonna say just in case, I'm gonna throw out the name Aaron Judge just in case there's a tie and they can, stay tied there. But I'm surprised it wasn't me this time. Like I really didn't work him into anything here. That's really so we all have then Mitch Garver being cut there.
Yeah, that was a no-brainer.
It's a shame, I think, because injury definitely played a role. He's back healthy now, but I don't think anyone in baseball saw what Jonah Heim has been in Texas. No one saw this coming.
Yeah, not even Texas.
Yeah, they definitely didn't. I mean, he was literally the only theoretical reason to hold him out of all-star voting, and we talked about that last episode, for AL catcher is the fact that he missed like 3 weeks of the season because his son was just born. Aside from that, he has slugging numbers up the wazoo for a Texas Rangers team that has struggled to hit the ball out of that ballpark. So it's really just for me, it's a shame that this happened to Mitch Garver, at one time considered probably the best catcher in the American League.
Debatable.
Really just a shame. He deserves better than what he's gotten, but it is what it is. I guess you got to roll with it. Fingers crossed for him. He turns it around, but yeah, we all got him cut. We're going to move on to the AL West now.
Well, we've been in the AL West.
All right. Yeah, I guess you're right. That's on me.
Your realignment hasn't happened yet, Nick. I promise.
Yeah, I know. I had some ideas and then it didn't work out. But anyway, so that aside, we're going to stay in the AL West. Sorry, we skipped over the AL Central because there's nothing interesting to talk about there. In the AL West, though, we're going to go to the Seattle Mariners. And we're going to talk about Seattle Mariners young outfielders not named Julio Rodriguez for obvious reasons. That's just, he's the obvious key. So we're not going to, that's like saying which Yankees outfielder you can keep. Yeah, we all know which one it is. It's Joey Gallo. But
he didn't deserve that.
Yeah, for sure. So right now the options are Kyle Lewis, Jared Kellenick, and Taylor Trammell. So I'm gonna ask you guys right now, who are you cutting? Brittany.
Jared Kellenick, the guy that we literally sat here and pretended that, honestly, it's just a mental thing for him. And I feel bad bashing him, so I'm just going to take a step back and just call it that. I think it's a mental thing for him. I think between the fact that he was sent down during the series where Seattle came to New York, and then him, every time he gets brought up, not quite doing it and having to go back down and kill it in AAA, I just think it's a mental thing. And I think they're just unfortunately some players who just can't get over that hump mentally. So he's going to have to go bye-bye.
I like that one. Julian, who you got cut?
I got cutting Kyle Lewis.
Oh,
wow.
I think he's 26. He's the oldest of the three. And that's really what it comes down to with the Mariners, because they need youth and they need to stay young and energetic. I like him as a hitter. He's a pretty decent outfielder. Nothing's crazy. Average hit bat, but some teams need that. And I feel like the other two, I'm not going to give my answers, but are a lot more movable pieces than Lewis.
Wow, I actually went. We're all. This is going to be an interesting one. Then I'm really excited about this. So I actually have the Mariners cutting Taylor Trammell.
Wow.
I think at this point Taylor Trammell was to in the opposite vein. He's very much the defensive piece. I think the offense has not been there yet for Trammell. Of these two options, not for nothing, he's the least sexy name.
Oh yeah.
So whether it's keep or trade for me, it was Taylor Trammell is the guy you're not getting the value for. Was in my head how this worked.
Yeah.
I think it's when the Mariners picked up Trammell, they knew what they were sort of coming away with. I think he came out of if I'm not mistaken, he came out of San Diego before this. They knew what was to come here. And again, I like Taylor Trammell a lot. It's not to say I believe he should be cut, but it's just of these three options, I think he adds the least, both in terms of the keep value and the trade value. So I guess we can move from there. Brandon, where you at with the trade?
So with trading, I actually have the Mariners trading away Kyle Lewis. I think that it's because he's injured. I don't think he's going to promote too much value this year. But the only place he will promote value, in my opinion, is in the dugout and the bullpen, not the bullpen, in the dugout and in the clubhouse. And so I have them being traded to the Miami Marlins, a team that's young, a team that the people that they brought in, another rival of the Mets, a team that I think at the end of the day, the people they brought in as leaders aren't quite doing their job and cutting it too well. So I think Kyle Lewis is young enough, but at the same time experienced and old enough where he can kind of fill that stopgap. And he take the year off to recover as he should with the time he should, and next year just kill it offensively like he normally has up until this year.
All right, Julian, what do you think there?
Trade, I have Taylor Trammell being the trade. I feel like some teams could use that defensive presence, like you were saying, i.e., I had him in an interdivision trade with Houston. Now that Alvarez got carted off the field, they're going to need some type of platoon out and left. And I feel like he could be the answer for that if they were to trade him. He's not going to cost much, maybe some mid-tier prospects, if that. But and he's younger, he's more controllable. That's right up Houston's alley, and they know how to fix broken pieces.
Yeah.
I feel like that could be a solid spot for both parties in this instance.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually. For me, I went Jared Kellenick here. So legitimately, this is the first time all three of us remotely disagreed on everything. Okay. Yeah. So I have Jared Kellenick as my trade piece, as the name attached to the prospect. I guess the hype, superseded the performance to this point. For me, though, I think baseball in general is not ready to give up on him in that capacity the way Brandon is, because Brandon's a hater, and that's just his nature.
I'm over it.
That's Brandon hate aside, I think baseball is not ready to give up on the kid. I think he's in need of a fresh start. I think everybody knows it. I think if you put him together with number 9 prospect Adam Macko, he's headed to the Pittsburgh Pirates.
See, he bores you too. You're yawning in his name. Come on.
Headed to the Pittsburgh Pirates for Roberto Perez and the desperate catching help that the Seattle Mariners need to potentially get back into contention this year, as well as they could re-sign Perez beyond this year and try to make a run. On the flip side, though, Kellenick goes to a more age-appropriate Pirates team where he can get a do-over, get definitive, dibs as the best outfield prospect there, and doesn't have to contend for a spot on a day-to-day. That's a sick laugh. I didn't like that. That was messed up, man. The microphone definitely caught that one. Oh, that sucks. Poor kid. All right.
I had for keeping Kellenick. I just think he has the tools to be successful. With opening up the other outfield spots, it gives him the chance to flourish. And I think if you're the Mariners franchise, in the past, you've given up way too much talent. You can't keep giving up talent. So you need that to win. So I think they need to get him right. Try to give away all the rest. Make sure you reassure him we are still confident in you. You and Julio are our future, and we run with it.
That's fair. I have a question for you then. As the only guy keeping Kellenick, what is your positional alignment there? Is Julio in center or is Kellenick in center?
I keep Julio in center.
Okay, and
I moved Kellenick to one of the corners.
Okay, yeah. All right. I was curious about that.
And this is someone who I've seen him live. He passes the eye test from the few games I've seen.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I had Kyle Lewis as my keep. Obviously, I think for this Mariners team, as much as I think we get in our classic Mariners, they're not making the playoffs. They're a team who now they feel like they're a couple pieces away. Last year they had something. This year we were hoping they'd build on something. Everyone except Julian was hoping they'd build on something. They've taken a little bit of a step back, but we're still pre-All-Star. So technically it's possible that, they mount some sort of a run. I think Kyle Lewis fits better with the current timeline. They have some veterans who are in arbitration years. Kyle Lewis is still a year away from that. That being said, though, he's a slightly more advanced hitter than the other options. You can keep him in left field, or I guess technically he has to play right opposite Jesse Winker. But, you can DH him just to keep the bat in the lineup. We know from his rookie campaign what he's capable of. I think the biggest question with him is the injuries. And if he can stay healthy, though, he's going to be a professional hitter. Fingers crossed he can stay healthy and man a corner, at the very least, man a DH role for the Mariners for years to come. So, Brandon, tell me why you're keeping Taylor Trammell.
I was going to say, I'll make it quick. I know we're running on the long end with this group, and we all hate Jared Kellenick. Oh, that's just me. So I'm keeping Taylor Trammell specifically because he's young. He has a lot of control, and he's cost efficient. And the Seattle Mariners have always proven, minus Robinson Cano, that's their main goal. Short, sweet, and to the point.
I like that. I like that one. So again, another question. Julio stays in center?
Yeah, he's gonna stand. I mean, until he proves he doesn't deserve it, it's his position to lose.
Okay. All right. I'm just interested because I know the long-term plan for the Mariners there for a bit was Kellenick center, Julio Rodriguez right field. So I'm just fascinated that how much, and it's I'm not disagreeing in any variation of this, but I'm just fascinated how quickly that perception's turned now.
It's 100% recency biased.
Yeah, of course. But it's just fascinating, I think, to me. So the next, we're going to move to the National League. We're going to go to the NL East, a team Brandon despises, about, and Julian doesn't really care about. We're going to talk about the Atlanta Braves, and we're going to talk about the fact that they have 3 legitimate closing options on this team. And we're going to dissect that from there. So I'll lead this one off. So the options are Kenley Jansen, Will Smith, AJ Minter, and I'm going to talk about my trade element, and you guys will follow here. So I'm going to trade Kenley Jansen.
Okay. I'm
going half a season rental with Kenley. Inflated ERA at 3.58. His hits per 9 has been absurd. Not striking batters out the way used to seeing Kenley Jansen doing. This is late season breakdown Kenley, not early in the year Kenley. So it's a very different thing. But that being said, I think he's enough of a name that another contender will bite. And if you can get the right contender, you can flip it so that a contender that needs a closer will give the Braves something they need. And in my eyes, that was outfield. So the team I'm trading Kenley Jansen to in a straight up move is the Toronto Blue Jays.
Hmm.
And in return, the Braves are getting Lourdes Gurriel Jr. straight up for Kenley. To man left field, you keep the rookie phenom Michael Harris in center field, Ronald Acuna Jr. in right, and then you let Adam Duvall sort of be your fourth outfield option with Guillermo Heredia. So
I don't hate that. That's actually not a bad idea.
then in a pinch, Gurriel can also step in, cover for Riley at third, cover for Dansby Swanson is short. I guess he could play second. I don't know that I've ever actually seen that happen, but he can cover for Ozzy. Screw it, he can play everything. Why not? All right, roll with it. Julian, who's your trade?
My trade is Will Smith, actually. I have Will Smith. I feel like a playoff team would want maybe more than just a half season rental. He's having a really solid season. I have the Cardinals going after him. They do need a little bit of bullpen help, especially since they're neck and neck with the Brewers. They need whatever they can do to make that team better. And my main reason is that if you don't cut Smith, or if you cut Smith, you still have to pay him for next year's deal of $13 million. And if I'm the Brewers, that's not what I want to do. Or the Braves, that's not what I want to do.
That's true. That's a good point. Excuse me. I'm actually going to side with Nick here. I'm trading away Kenley Jansen just because he started off and it's gotten worse. It's just the Braves are just not a good fit for him. So I have him actually getting traded back to the Dodgers, a team that has been having a lot of pitcher back and forths, a lot of question marks in that area. And at the end of the day, they're at the top of the entire NL in terms of records and projected to go the distance. And I think with the fact that they're not scared of payroll, they're willing to pay whatever it takes to go the distance, and they have the trade chips for it. Plus, they know Kenley. They know at the end of the day, no matter what, he's pitched well there, and I think that'll be a really good effect on his ego and his confidence going back home where it all started. So yeah, and I mean they're going to just give up any insert prospect here. They have a bunch of them.
I liked the Dodger thing. The only thing I couldn't wrap my head around was I think Kenley Jansen and Craig Kimbrell, who's now a Dodger, are too much of head cases that neither can give up the ninth inning. The second one of them goes to the seventh or the eighth, it's over. So that was my one
be a fly on the wall in that bullpen.
That would be a hilarious conversation.
They're just staring down. This is the reason Craig Kimbrell went to the White Sox last year. They were supposed to have opposing teams can't hit in the eighth and ninth inning. Craig Kimbrell just said, "Now screw it, you guys, softballs."
But didn't Kimbrell also just recently get cut and picked up by the Dodgers?
Yeah, and then he came into the Dodgers, has been fairly good in the ninth inning role. Additionally, you have Blake Treinen, who's a little bit more comfortable slotting down, but Kimbrell,
I think he's on thin. I think he's on thin ice at the end of the day because of that. And personally, I think you go with the devil in that situation because it's I don't want to deal with that at the end. Jensen, fair enough, does not have the off the field record and annoyance that Kimbrell has.
Okay. All right. Julian, who's your cut then?
My cut is Kenley Jansen. I just think you only have him for the year. You can eat the rest of the contract. He's just been struggling throughout the year. Right? To me, in my opinion, he's been the worst of the three. So I don't think you're really losing much if you cut him, and then you slide down everybody else in the bullpen. And I still think the Braves have a pretty solid pen on their hands.
Okay. I was actually cutting Will Smith because for me, the cut with Will Smith was more predicated on the fact that the Braves are a big market team that operate like a small market team, so they'll happily eat $13 million for a guy not to play. He's, I think, for me, the most expendable based on at this point. I'm keeping AJ Minter. I think for me it was, you have two late inning lefties. One is doing better than the other for me. Will Smith, fun name as it might be, he's definitely past his prime. I think cutting him, letting him walk to, whatever team will pick him up on a flyer kind of deal is probably the better way to go about it. Also, I feel like of the possible trade candidates there for me, Will Smith added the least to another team, or at least he presented the least amount of return, I should say, of the three candidates was my big thing. So,
Nick, you and I might as well have just called each other and just talked about our picks for this round. I'm also cutting Will Smith and keeping AJ Minter. Because as of a day ago, I saw CB. I was just reading up on it actually to kind of prove my point where I wanted to go with this. But AJ Minter is a little bit farther ahead in the race to be the closer. We also didn't talk about it. Best of luck to Kelly Jensen with his irregular heartbeat situation and being placed in the IL. But I think because Minter is ahead of him and he's not done anything bad so far, I'm going to go with him over Will Smith.
Yeah, I like that.
I think even if this game isn't happening, the Braves should start looking at Minter as that closer position.
Yeah.
Because if you compare the two stats right now between Jensen and Minter, it's night and day. And they've been pitching the same amount of innings, 33, 32 and 2/3.
Yeah.
One has a 1.6 ERA compared to 3.58.
I think, I was gonna say the only thing you could point to with Minter's advanced stats is in the role he's been sort of shoehorned in as either the 7th or 8th opposite Will Smith. Minter's had to face a lot of lefties as a lefty.
Yeah.
I think that's the one, sort of thing you can go with. That being said, though, I think we're all in agreement there. AJ Minter has to be the guy. We're going to move on now to the Pittsburgh Pirates, a team that gets no love on this podcast ever, and for good reason. It's borderline depressing what the Pirates have been post 2012, and we're going to talk about them keep trading or cutting potential faces of the franchise. That was really the glue here. So the options are Ryan Reynolds, Ke'Bryan Hayes, and O'Neal Cruz. Now, Brandon, I'm gonna let you kick this one off with your keep and tell me why it's O'Neal Cruz.
Because he's the man. Who does not like O'Neal Cruz? The guy's been literally a tear to the MLB right now. Let me pull up his stats because I'm baffled. He's right now batting .333, on base percentage .333, slugging of .667. He's had 3 hits, a home run the other day, by the way, absolutely glorious. 3 RBIs, only 9 at bats. I think he really is presenting that spark. That, not to name someone else in this trio, that Brian Reynolds presented last year, or Ke'Bryan Hayes, honestly, either or presented that. So I think O'Neal Cruz is the man, and that's mainly why I'm keeping him, and he's going to be around for a while.
To add on to something there, O'Neal Cruz still very much unproven, but I'm also going with the keep with him. It's a very unproven commodity. He's a legitimate rookie. On top of it, though, not for nothing, the marketability of a 6'7" shortstop. And he's exciting. He moves phenomenally. I was always convinced O'Neal Cruz with all the scouting reports and just the idea of him being that big playing the position. I was obsessed with the idea that he would have to move off.
Yeah.
I said he had to go to the corners, either infield or outfield. I said there's no way he is staying at shortstop. Watching him play the game of baseball, he moves very well at the position.
so fun to watch.
It's
Beautiful.
but that's the thing is, so now for me it becomes, he's like a fusion of like from Dragon Ball Z reference,
Go the other way
for those, yeah, for those at home who didn't get that one. But he's like, if you take Aaron Judge's height, like just confusion when watching him play the game and be that athletic given his size, and the excitement and position of Fernando Tatis, as well as capturing sort of that Hispanic market, my goodness, is O'Neal Cruz a freaking hit? Like, just off the rip. I mean, I think we're going to see more Pirates jerseys in the next, 2 to 3 years. He's going to eclipse Andrew McCutchen no time at all, who had an MVP year. This kid is just an anomaly, and people will be so fascinated with the concept that, they'll dive in wholeheartedly at that point.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah,
Julian, who's your
there's
same deal?
nothing- Yeah, it's a clean sweep.
Wow.
The last 2 podcasts I've been raving about O'Neal Cruz, and I still am gonna get on here and say, Pirates, you have something. Play him. So good. He's so much fun. I'm watching Pirates games finally again.
Yeah,
I
right.
remember the last time I watched a Pirates game.
That's weird. It's a weird thought.
Yeah.
It really is. All right, so this is now where it gets interesting, and I'm curious where we go from here. I would kick things off. My trade is Brian Reynolds.
Not as interesting as you think. Trust me.
Wow. Is this another clean? Okay.
This might
Wow.
be. Yeah.
So wow. Okay. So my rationale. So I guess the cut there for all of us is Ke'Bryan Hayes. I very much like Ke'Bryan Hayes.
Oh yeah, no, he's good. Bless you.
Excuse me. Sorry about that. I very much like Ke'Bryan Hayes. I'm allergic to my own bullshit. For me, it's a context, defensive blend, very, very good ball player. For me, though, I'm looking at the Pirates to trade their player to a contender to get prospects back that fit with a younger scheme. It was very hard for me to narrow down a contender that needed a third baseman, because you cannot move Ke'Bryan Hayes off of third base.
No, it's gonna be hard.
And that was a very weird thing for me. The best I could come up with theoretically is the Yankees, but the Yankees go platoon at third with DJ LeMahieu and Josh Donaldson. And that has been working well enough to be baseball's best record. So I can't justify screwing with that at that point. So for me, there was no clear cut. Ke'Bryan Hayes is a leap and grounds above better guy at another position or at another team. For me though, Brian Reynolds, is absolutely a very good player at a position of need for a lot of contenders. He is my guy going to the Philadelphia Phillies. And because the Phillies do not have the depth of farm, or very strong farm system in terms of big names, they had to go deep on this one. I have the already debuted Phil Maton, who's an infield, strong up the middle guy. Hans Kraus, starting pitcher. And then I had to go with the Phillies number 4 and number 19 prospects in addition to it. Johan Rojas in the outfield and James MacArthur, who's another starting pitcher there. It's a lot for the Phillies to give up. My alternate was the Miami Marlins. But I think the Phillies will trade the bag, because they'll trade the whole farm, really, because they gave up the bag was the difference here for me. And then he stays in state. And somehow that's not a rivalry. I'm very confused on the Philly-Pittsburgh thing. I am going to be honest. But go ahead, Brent.
I actually also, like the both of you, have him as a trade target. I think, he was an all-star last year, rookie of the year candidate, or I think he actually won it rookie year. I don't remember. But he The guy's got stuff. The guy's got juice. He's got a bat. And I have him actually going to my New York Mets. I think at the end of the day, we need a bat. We are sitting here thinking long-term past this season, where now Nimmo is a free agent. Escobar is no longer there at third base. We have Host at left field is kind of up for grabs. Not really. I guess you could put Canna in there. So we have Host to fill. So I think that with Brian Reynolds, with one more year, it kind of puts the onus back on Nimmo. As much as I want him to stay, please stay. Don't go nowhere, Nimmo. Please don't go nowhere. I think that he would be a good person to kind of give the Mets at least operating from a position of strength as opposed to weakness. I see us, unfortunately, trading away Dom Smith. As much as I love him, he's just checked out, man. It's unfortunate, but at the end of the day, he's just not there anymore.
I mean, I agree with you on Dom Smith.
It's just
that's a hard one. That was an almost for us in terms of teams we talked about today. It was Mets players who definitely need a new start.
Yeah, and it sucks. It's sad. It was either it was either between him and Pete Alonso, and Pete Alonso just worked out
Pete
better.
Alonso.
For lack of better words. So I have him going and maybe adding on like a Nick Plummer or a Carlos Cortez, someone that can play the outfield. I think that deal will go through. And the Mets get a bat. They get a little more security going into the offseason, and they get to continue trying to lead the NL ahead of the Dodgers, because Dodgers are second, and right the ship come second half when the season really matters.
Julian, where are you trading him?
I have him to another NL East team. I have him the Braves.
I love the three of us. We were on point.
Green team for the NL East. I think the Braves would be probably one of the best spots. I think it was toss-up between the Braves and the Mets, but since I went Mets earlier, I decided to go Braves. I like Ozuna. I feel like you could stash Reynolds out in left field, and it also adds a little bit more change it in their lineup, where they are a very right-handed hitter central team.
Yeah.
And adding a switch hitter like that could definitely toss up, make some interesting lineups. I do like what Harris is doing when he got called up. Now he's filling that center field role. Maybe you can move Harris to left, or you can mix things around finally. You have some flexibility. That way you don't have to put too much strain on Acuna, and everyone can pretty much do what they do. And adds that bat that you're going to need once it comes to October.
Yeah. I like that. And again, apologies to Brian Hayes. This was an unfair one.
Yeah.
You just should have come up in discussion in a year where contenders needed a third baseman. That's your fault.
That's essentially what it came down to for me too.
Yeah, that's just really sad.
For what it's worth, though, Brian Hayes, you could insert him as well for my trade candidate, because the Mets, if they're going to the Mets, they also could use a third baseman. Eduardo Escobar is not cutting it. Yeah. But I think Jeff McNeil and JD Davis, there's just more options up there than there is in the outfield.
I love that you just accidentally segued for it. Because as we go to the San Diego Padres, we're going to lead with the trade candidate, and I'll take it right from there. I have Joe Musgrove. Of my 3 expiring pitching contracts, Taylor Rogers, Joe Musgrove, Mike Clevenger, I have Joe Musgrove as my trade candidate going to the New York Mets for a package of Jeff McNeil, JD Davis. What else did I have? Oh, that was that was my 2. So because it's an expiring, I wanted to add third, but that was my expiring.
Way too much for Joe Musgrove. That's way too much.
not for a Mets team who definitely not for a Mets team who no longer has Max Scherzer and definitely does not have Jacob deGrom.
I will say this. I'm going to defend my guys, because I do not want Jeff McNeil traded. I think
you have the positional flexibility. The thing for me with Musgrove was, let me be very clear, all 3 of these guys for a San Diego Padres team who is dealing with injuries and everything like that, I don't believe any of these 3 guys really should be let go in any capacity. Mm-hmm. But if I'm letting one of them go, Musgrove was the in my head, least likely to resign come the off season. And on top of it, I looked at him as being probably the most worth the while for another team. In return, the Padres get a stopgap for Machado's injury in J.D. Davis, who can platoon. And on top of it, you got Jeff McNeil, who is the ultimate utility guy. I mean, at that point, you can literally plug and play at 6 positions. J.D. Davis can also play first theoretically. You have 7 out of 9 positions on the field covered at that point, just in those 2 guys. The Mets in return get a technically 4th legitimate ace caliber guy. There's no losers in that trade. Come playoff time, if the Mets can hang on with Joe Musgrove as the starter until Scherzer and DeGrom return, like for me, that was an easy one.
Yeah. For me, honestly, it was a toss-up. But I'm gonna stick with the guy that we're doing the trading for. I had Mike Clevenger being a trade candidate. I think he's been up and down, but I think he's been for the most part up this season recently. I also have him. I'm gonna talk about the Mets again, back to back. I have him going to the Mets, but I have him going specifically for Dom Smith, the same package I did before. Dom Smith and either like Nick Plummer or Cortez. Mets need pitching, and not to say I just was about to read a quote. Scherzer just finished his AA start. They asked him at the end of his start. He said, "I am ready to go." So he's going to be pitching one of the games come that Atlanta Braves series. After that, DeGrom is just had a 24 pitches. So he's ramping up. He's about to start doing some rehab starts. But my point is not on them. My point is on Taijuan Walker and Carlos Carrasco. Those are 2 guys who I believe truthfully, you bring in a Clevenger, I guess to your point, if you want to bring in a Musgrove, like I'll do the hybrid there. You bring in a Clevenger, and I think for the second half of the season, up until the playoffs, the Mets should run with a 6-man rotation and do a 4-inning split with Carrasco and Walker, and then have Diaz as a 9th inning guy. I think those 2 are the most injury susceptible, minus the fact that our aces are coming back. And I think that would just help with the arms going into the playoffs where everybody just needs to be fresh.
I like that. Julian, where are you at with this one?
I have Rogers being traded, and I have him going to the Twins. I want.
Ooh, wow, back to this.
That's a good one.
Yeah, have him going back to the Twins. I think the Twins desperately need a closer. They need some help in that bullpen. I was looking at just saves throughout the league, and they're the only team that are in like a playoff contention that's in the bottom half of the American League in saves. They need a lot of help in that bullpen, and I feel like they can give San Diego a good piece or 2 in order to come back. And it's mostly just because I just think he's probably the second best player in this list. So that's why I have him being traded.
Okay. I like that. So I'll piggyback off of that for my keep. I actually have them keeping Taylor Rogers. I think the bullpen has been the weak spot for San Diego. They have, I feel like they have the overabundance of starters. Just in the big name guys, we talked about Joe Musgrove, Mike Clevenger. You have Hugh Darvish. You just had to get rid of Chris Paddock because there's literally no more space available. You have the big name talent there in the starting rotation. You need the bullpen arms. Drew Pomeranz alone cannot carry this, bullpen. You need Taylor Rogers. I think Taylor Rogers is a West Coast guy, originally from Colorado with his twin brother. That being said, though, Colorado is Colorado, so he's not going to Colorado. And San Francisco, where his brother is, also is a little bit stacked in the bullpen already. So staying in San Diego makes sense. So keeping him, he's likely to resign. He's a bullpen piece that's desperately needed for San Diego team that has also fared considerably well this year, I will say, in close close ball games settled by 2 runs or less. And I think he's been a very big part of it. So that was my keep there.
And my keep, make it quick. It was between, honestly, this is another one of those trios where like it's not a knock on the person I'm cutting. I just personally believe that starting pitcher is more valuable, so I'm keeping Musgrove over Rogers. But I feel bad because Rogers is so pumped now to finally have the closer role against his brother. But I'm sorry, you need starting pitching.
Wow, another unanimous disagreement.
Yeah, I also have Musgrove.
Oh, wow.
No,
Okay.
I also have Musgrove keeping because if you're the Padres, you're finally where you've wanted to be for the last 2 years. And Musgrove has been that workhorse starter that's going to get you those 7 innings if you need to.
Yeah.
Like, you need to keep him. You need to sign him. If you want to trade off another arm in your starting pitching, he's not the guy. Like, you want to keep him, especially for a deep playoff run. You need someone like him.
Okay. Fair enough. So then my cut was Mike Clevenger. The injury history now, he's coming back. He's come back well. I think, he is not the guy that they traded for, was the big thing, whereas both Musgrove and Taylor Rogers, who have also been traded for, all 3 guys, by the way, have been traded for in the last 3 years. That's just a fun note for everyone at home. But for me, Clevenger, just most recent injury, he at this point is competing for the 5th, starting spot. Really, Padres in the playoffs, I don't even know that he has a guaranteed spot in that rotation. So that's a tough one for me there. So I'm cutting Clevenger. So by default, Brandon, you're cutting Taylor Rogers.
Yeah, I said why. Yeah, I said why before. Yeah, by default.
Okay. And then Julian, you're cutting.
I'm also cutting Clevenger for the exact same reasons that you would think. Like,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, quick note, fantasy happened this week. I
have a bonus round before we get into fantasy.
Oh wait, yeah.
Bonus round.
Quick bonus round. It'll be quick. The theme is young player to build your team around.
Okay.
We have Vladimir Guerrero Jr., we have Fernando Tatis, and we have Juan Soto, aka young Spanish player to build your team around. And Juan Soto, the third.
Is some of our favorite topics in baseball.
Yeah, of course. Come on, we gotta talk about this here.
That is.
So I'm gonna go last to let you guys mentally think. Actually, I'll go first because you guys are thinking about it. So I am going to, and this is so basically the way I have this set up, you're going to keep trade or cut. If you're going to keep them, they're going to stay on the team they're at. If you're going to trade them, you're trading them to a team that you think they would do the best on. If you're going to cut, they're just cut. So I am keeping, with that being said, Fernando Tatis. I think
on the team he's on. Okay.
I'm going to keep him where he's at. I'm going to give all 3 to give you guys a little more time to think. Keeping Fernando Tatis. I am trading Juan Soto to my New York Mets because I am selfish and I know BDS will pay that man. And honestly, like not even trying to say that, but the Nationals are not a team recently going to be in contention anytime soon.
Yeah, that's fair.
Soto is producing to show that this team is not in contention, and I think he's going to force his way out very, very soon. And I chose the Mets because the Mets were very much linked to him this offseason with that whole fiasco with his brother. And then the Nationals picked him up, but then like he would really, really well fit the mold of the Mets. And that's not biased, that's just the way the team's constructed, you could tell. And then unfortunately I'm cutting Vlad, not a knock on Vlad. This is just a really hard decision. And I think at the end of the day, of the 3, Vlad's just the one that's not in the NL. So I'm just gonna get rid of him.
Okay, so I'll go next.
It's hard.
Dude, I feel like an owner.
This is difficult.
This is weird. I feel like an owner because I keep going to the financial element of a guy where he is making money. So I'm keeping Vlad actually
Really? Okay.
in Canada.
Okay.
A young Toronto Blue Jays lineup that he is the foundation of. Um, wow, that's tough. But I'm keeping Vlad where he is.
So who are you?
I think he's such a good fit for the Toronto Blue Jays as a whole. Like the fan base is just the outpouring of love and support for Vlad Jr. is just stupid. Um,
And
I'm
he's
going to trade Juan Soto also. For Juan Soto, though, I'm going to go to an all-time franchise in need of a new superstar to build around that already has a young team to build around. I'm going to go Chicago Cubs.
oh wow. I thought you were gonna say somebody else. Okay.
No, I'm going to go young team Chicago Cubs, build around him in Wrigley. Because also I have a theory that, I actually have a theory that's where he's going. Just generally speaking, I think they signed Trey Turner in the offseason and flip all their young prospects for Juan Soto. But that's another time for a different day. Hence why they're behind me today at Wrigley. Thanks for leading into this, by the way. I was finding a way. And then I'm cutting Fernando Tatis. Wow.
Weird to say, right?
Yeah, Fernando Tatis Jr. is getting cut. Wow. Holy shit. That's crazy.
Yeah, man. Welcome to the.
I'm literally just doing it because of the injury.
Yeah, that's a good reason. Julian,
Julian,
last
it's
but not
me.
least.
I'm still like up in the air.
No, you got to go.
All right. So I'm gonna keep Tatis in San Diego because I do like that team around him. I feel like it just fits him really well. The atmosphere in San Diego fits Tatis's personality really well. I would love to keep Vladdy in the Blue Jays, but I want him to actually sniff the playoffs. So I will trade Vladdy to who needs a first baseman?
Or DH.
It's like fuck. All right, but I'm gonna cut Juan Soto because he's gonna end up leaving the Nationals anyway. It's just a matter of time. Might as well cut your losses now, Nationals before anything.
God damn it. I just found the contender that needs a first baseman, but I don't want to say it out loud.
Not say it because
he's stuck.
It's Boston.
That'd actually be a good one.
See, I was trying to keep him out of the division, but I was trying to keep him in a division where he could,
That being said, I guess maybe Houston also, but also ill. But
yeah.
Seeing Vlad Jr. just 81.
Send him to the Cardinals.
No, Goldschmidt.
Oh no, that's right.
Yeah,
I'll send him to the Cubs.
All right. Why not?
Send him to the Cubs. I'll sign up for that. I'll sign up for your idea that they're gonna sign Trey Turner, pair Vladdy up with Turner. I'm with it. Sign me up.
I like it. So what I was gonna lead into before that, I really like that one.
That was a good one. That was a good one. It made me think.
Thank you.
I enjoyed that one. We're gonna have to play this game again.
Thank you guys for playing the game with me. Appreciate it.
So what I was segueing into before is, Brittany, I kicked the shit out of you in fantasy.
We're not gonna talk about that. Honestly, man, you didn't beat me. I beat myself. That's like, I think in combined loss points from pitchers alone, I easily had like 300 points. Easily. Like I was like racking up every pitcher that would have had a bad start last week. I chose to pick them up, stream them, and watch them pitch horribly.
Yeah, that's rough because you watched it through. That's extra disappointing. Yeah, no, because of that, I moved on to 9-2. This week I'm also facing Kevin for the first time, which is just an absolute gimme. You know what it's like to not have to set your lineup for like 3 days and just know you're winning by 100 points? Phenomenal.
That was 2 weeks ago for me.
Yeah, it's really cool, man. I've had time to really me and the wife have gone on dates. We've enjoyed ourselves. I've been at a ton of Yankee games.
We have to bring Kevin here to defend himself. It's not right. It's not right.
Wow. God, he's giving it away. Julian, where you at in fantasy?
I'm actually genuinely disappointed by my week. I lost to Justin by 3 points.
Wow.
And it's solely because of Carlos Carrasco and his awful, awful start. And I tempted to cut him, but he bounced back. So
Yeah.
I got Anthony this week, so I'm going to take it out on him. And I already am. I'm up like 60 points. So
Nice.
Going into
Yeah.
today, I was up. I think I have Justin, don't I, this week? I have a high player. Let's see. I lost last week. We're not gonna talk about that anymore. Oh, I have Steven. Barely losing by like 20. It's actually pretty close. I was
Wow.
up going into today. I'll help you guys out because I don't know, like my road to the playoffs maybe next year. So I'll help you guys out so far.
Please
Alright.
do.
Yeah,
Actively,
so
beat Steven, because then I will be in first place in the league. So I very much appreciate that. So on top of that, we're gonna end it with the way we always do. We're gonna call bull. We're gonna call ball on a few things, and I think me and Julian are going on the same sort of topic with this one. Julian, you want to lead off?
Yeah. So mine was originally going to be a ball, but I'm going to call bull. I thought once the fight happened, the Angels ended up winning the game. I thought, cool, this is the energy this team needed to finally turn it around after this god-awful June. This is the way everyone's together, brings everybody together. And then one of our pitchers gets hurt trying to jump over a fence and, shatters an elbow, out for the season. Another pitcher tipping pitches and Mike Trout's catching it in center field. It doesn't look like it's going to be good. I hope they prove me wrong because they are currently up 2-0 on the White Sox to try to take this series. I hope I'm wrong, but things aren't looking good.
Okay, that's fair. I'm actually going to call ball. And what I'm going to call ball on is very, I don't know how to say this. I think we talked a lot ahead of the season about sort of what it felt like to have so many teams feel like they're in it, to have teams feel invested, to have teams feel, so many fan bases feel like they have a shot this year. Whether that's still the case or not, it does not matter. Angels fans still feel like they're in it. Mariners fans still feel like they're in it. And the players themselves are not ready to give up on a season, being out of first place by, 10 plus games. I love that. I love the energy to the point that the interpreter for the Los Angeles Angels got tossed and suspended. No one can talk to Shohei Ohtani today.
Oh, it wasn't Shohei's interpreter.
I'm sorry, not.
It was all the Hispanic players' interpreter.
And it was funny because he was actually like, if you watch, he was calming everyone down. Shout out John Boy.
Oh yeah,
he was calming everyone down, and then once he saw he was kicked out, that's when he lost his shit and started throwing everything. It was the best thing I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, it was very entertainment.
For me though, I say that's ball because I'm so sorry. I want my players invested.
Oh,
I don't care if you're in first place or if you're 30 games behind. I don't give a shit. I want to see the product on the field be the most intense competitive thing. I want guys at each other's throats. I want the hard slides. I want the running out every pitch. And when the ball comes inside and you feel it's unjustified, I want guys that like face to face out there. I don't love the suspension of some of the best players in baseball, obviously. The Angels being without managers for, God knows how long. Had to stagger how long all of your coaches were like suspended for. Suspensions start at a different time for each one.
Suspensions are really weird too. I don't know if you read.
Yeah, very weird.
He's allowed to do everything except once it's game time. He can't be in the dugout or the clubhouse. He has to leave.
But it's because of it's literally because all of the coaches were suspended.
Yeah.
But it's just for me, not for nothing, I love the investment. And for the Angels, we were a team that we were talking about them. Same but different with the Mariners. We were talking about them at one point with the idea that they could be a playoff bound team. And it has not worked out that way. That being said, though, they have not given up the spirit of just sheer competition. Angels went on a historically bad slide. Did not matter. Did not give up on the spirit of competition. Now I agree with you that they haven't bounced back from that the way people would have liked, but still the fact that the right thinking still get them riled up, and it's not they're mailing it in on each other. I mean, you there's something to love about that from just the sheer competitive element. So I'm a big fan of that.
They're inspiring other teams because the Blue Jays and the Red Sox tried to reenact what happened today.
Throwing fisticuffs.
No,
Throwing fisticuffs early.
They're like, hey, we saw how much traction when they got on Twitter.
Absolutely.
Did the same.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, thank you so much for doing this with me. It has been a fun episode. Brandon, thank you so much for introducing us to Keep Trade Cut. It has been very fun. We're going to have to do it again very soon. Next episode will probably be a June recap episode. And thank you guys for joining us. It's been a whole lot of fun. We're nearing the halfway point of the season, and thank you for sticking it out, Mom.
Happy 4th of July.
Shout out to Kyle, too, for everyone's commenting.
Yeah, that too. All right. Catch you guys soon.
See ya.